Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Crissy Piper, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to the podcast. So here we are with another episode, and I'm actually bringing back a very special guest that we just had on last week because we were not able to get through everything that we needed to get through when talking with our wonderful, amazing medium, Michelle Young. And before I introduce her and give you a little bit more about her, in our last episode, we really dove into, speaking about, our intuition, how we can really deepen our relationship with spirit. But we didn't have enough time to get into another area of Michelle's specialties, which is energy medicine and energy healing. And I think that's a really big and important part of her gifts and a really awesome thing for her to share in more detail what she does. So just to tell you a little bit more about Michelle, she is a modern day mystic, a medium psychic, and a wife, mother, daughter, and friend. She's been practicing as a holistic energy practitioner for over 8 years. She's currently in the Body Intuitive Master Practitioner Program with esteemed doctors who have dedicated their lives to create new alternatives in healthcare. She's a Reiki master and teacher, a certified in CFT, and she channels messages from heaven daily in the form of poems. Her practice is not a conventional energy session. She uses all of her gifts to connect to mystic, her channeling, her education, and her sensitivity to energy to educate and coach her clients, encouraging them to chillax into the life of their dreams. Welcome back for a third time, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Crissy, for having me. And I really want to thank your audience for all the positive feedback and the momentum to bring me back. I really am flattered and honored and delighted to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, as you should be, flattered, because I will say, people want to know more and more and more. And I don't blame them, because I think what you do is so special. And you have such amazing gifts to share. And that's why when we didn't get around talking about the specific part of what you do regarding energy medicine and healing, I said, we just have to do it. We have to make it the next episode so that we can get to that part. Because I think we might have touched a little bit on it, but we didn't get really into it. And while you channel messages from heaven, and that is so important, but how you also do that, besides just writing with your pen, how you use that in energy medicine and healing is quite amazing. So let's get into it and talk about really what energy medicine is. So tell us a little bit about it and how you think it can relate to mindset.
How energy medicine relates to mindset. Okay, so I was listening a few weeks ago to your very first podcast and talking about how mindset is everything and you need to have your why, why you want to do something. And I think a lot of us have had experiences where we've had breakthroughs. Like, I love your story about how when you were in pharmaceuticals, or you were a nurse and you were interviewing with pharmaceutical companies and you started working, they said, you're never going to get into the ER. And you had the mindset that I'm going to get into the ER. And you probably had breaks in your search and in your interviews and in your just all the unfolding of that whole process of how you got from point A to point B. And those breaks could be those little miracles and the support and the momentum that's here supporting us, whether you noticed it or not. I'm sure you felt it inside. I'm sure you felt the universe carrying you. And that's the difference is, going into that deeper dive, like we've talked about in the past 2 episodes, in terms of developing your relationship with spirit and really understanding the difference between your intuition, your inspiration, and your guidance. Because we might have the mindset to break through glass ceilings. But like, for an example, a person who is working, I was speaking with a woman and she is an executive at a hospital, and she was having trouble breaking through that C-suite glass ceiling that she deserves to be able to break through and all of that. And the thing is that her mindset wants to be there, but maybe with a little bit of support from spirit, like we're talking about, she might realize that she needs to tweak a few things, or an energy medicine session can help, get rid of some of the limiting beliefs that may be buried in a very highly successful, clearly very confident person. Or she might all of a sudden have the inspiration to look at the hospital next door or the hospital in the next town and be like, you know what? That's just the better fit for her. And that's why she couldn't break through in this one place, because she's meant to break through in another. So we can't create where our openings are, but as we see them, that's how we bring that magic and the miracles. Like when something comes in and supports us that we just couldn't make up ourselves. And that's where we feel that support, and we can get further into our lives and into our desires and living the life of our dreams.
Yeah. No, I think that what you're saying, what I hear you saying is with energy medicine, it really helps us to almost sort of break through, the limitations that we have in our head, but also listen more to the, not just situations, but anything that might be coming to us that normally sometimes we might just like brush off, like that's not for me, or I can't do that. And, that's something I would never consider, but it kind of gives you the idea, or I don't know if it is a deeper understanding to stop and pause and go into that situation a little bit deeper. Is that correct?
It is. And it goes back to our conversation last week when we were talking about information coming in the pop-ups.
Yeah.
When we ask for help, we get the help we need. You were asking for signs. So you got, that bright light in your bathroom in the middle of the night. Like when we ask for help, we always get support and answers. So as we keep ourselves open in those questions, we can be guided where we need to go. And that's how, and if we paint it from how we want to feel, like when we align with the vibration, like I love how I feel when I am in the perfect corporate position, in the perfect, C-suite for the perfect company. It all of a sudden might guide us. Like we might just all of a sudden, it would be like, it's almost like your head is just gently turned to look and notice something that you might not have noticed before. And then you have the inspiration to maybe go and talk to a person in that other company, or a person like even in your own company. I can't say where the doors are going to open, but This is how we open ourselves to the creative genius.
Yeah, it helps to allow you to see those doors being opened for you.
Yes.
Okay, so that's awesome. So that's how it can help with mindset, because I think when people hear energy healing or energy medicine, they think strictly physical. So how about, can you give me an example or tell me about how energy medicine helps physically? If someone is experiencing some type of physical ailment or sickness, would they come to you for energy healing?
Absolutely.
Okay. How does that work?
Well, one short answer is our immune cells, right? We're going through a global pandemic, right? Everybody wants to have really strong immune cells. Our immune cells are mini me's. So your immune cells are mini Crissys. My immune cells are mini Michelle's. How we live our lives, how we show up is what our immune cells are doing internally. So for example, if I'm a person who is not strong in my personal boundaries, some of my immune cells might let in some pathogens because they might just not be so strong in their boundaries. All the different immune cells in our bodies have different jobs, but they mimic how we show up in our lives. So as we go in and resolve the root of the issue. So what is it about me that doesn't give me enough confidence to be strong in my boundaries? What is it about me that I don't think I'm good enough to defend my own boundaries? What is it about me? And as I go in and I heal that situation, I can then, as an energy medicine practitioner, or if I'm working with an energy medicine practitioner, they're going to go into the innate wisdom of my cells and tap the innate wisdom back in, and just, they're like, oh, it's like they were just a little bit confused, and they can come back and do their happy dance the right way. That's how they want to show up. And our immune cells want to communicate with us. So as an energy medicine practitioner, I've worked on, I'm hearing all different stories. They want to tell their stories because they want to do their job well. Our body is designed to be its own innate best healer. That's just one example.
Yeah, that's really cool. And, it's really interesting when you think about it, because obviously I don't think that we think about this every day, how everything starts at the cellular level, right? Mm-hmm. And everywhere, not just our bodies, but every living thing out there, it all starts at the cellular level. But it's very deep and scientific and, or in this case, spiritual to think about. So what would you say to those cynics out there, or the people that are like, not really buying in or not sure if they think energy medicine works or is real? What do you say to that?
Well, okay. So you just, said scientific and spiritual, and you put it in like two different categories. And
yes,
this is what holistic healing is, everything wants to come back to wholeness. Yeah. But we referenced in our last episode, Dr. Candace Burt. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of doctors that are drawing mind-body scientific energy medicine connections. I'm studying with Dr. Laura Stuve. She has over 26 years in research and development academia. She has switched completely she was involved in major studies regarding breast cancer research. And when she realized, when she was looking at a pie chart and there was a little tiny sliver of the pie chart, and she thought with these big 5 amazing breakthroughs that they had, that they would be working in the big picture of the pie chart. And when she realized that she's only working in a small portion of that pie, she decided to devote her life to the big portion of the pie, which is why she has left academia and R&D completely and is working in energy medicine. And she's collecting data with these case studies that we're working on to scientifically prove how energy medicine is working. But our emotions cause chemical reactions in our endocrine systems, whether it's in our specific hormones or whether it's in an endocrine circuit. It causes reactions in our nervous system. When communication slows down, our synapses aren't firing quick enough. Our cells are just sluggish and they're just not responding. Our bodies are meant to be healthy and strong, and we can heal any disease that comes in if you can get to the root of the problem. It's all just a matter of believing, trusting, fully showing up. And I say that because last year I was down in Florida taking one of these classes. It was an advanced complex case study class. And we had a case study come in, and it was a young man, and he had neuroendocrine cancer, and he had been given a few weeks to live. And somebody basically kind of wanted to help him. A friend brought him to the doorstep of Dr. Janet Galipo's clinic. And Dr. Janet Galipo is a doctor of Chinese medicine. So Body Intuitive is East meets West. We're working energetically with Western science and Eastern classical Chinese medicine philosophy. So anyway, this young man committed to showing up. He stopped consuming alcohol, like he cleaned up his diet. That's a commitment. When he eventually got his strength up, he started exercising. And by the time I had met him in this study, he had gained 90 pounds. And this man did not have 90 pounds to lose.
Wow.
And he said, believe it or not, and he kind of laughed, and I'll never forget his laugh. He said, believe it or not, like, this is the healthiest I've ever been in my life. So he's continued because he's such a believer and he's had such positive experience. I mean, he went from being basically on hospice to thriving, running 4 miles a day.
Unbelievable.
And now a year later, not only is he thriving physically, but emotionally, he's in a relationship. He had never been in a relationship previously. So he has changed his whole life around. And it's amazing the things that you can witness.
That is amazing. I mean, it's a miracle, that is what I think people would call that. And I love that it's a holistic approach, right? It's not science and it's not spirituality separate. It is holistic. It's looking at your body as a whole, your person as a whole. And I do think that, more and more, that's what people are thirsty for, right? I mean, I know just myself and other people that I talk to, when you go to like a specialist doctor and they're just looking at one little piece of something that's going on with you, but then that trickles into this happening in your body and then this happening in your body, but they don't treat that because that's not their specialty. So then you got to go to this doctor and then you got to go to that doctor. And I think looking at ourselves mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, physically, in a more holistic way, just promotes more holistic health, in general.
And well, I do want to make a comment when we say holistic practice, especially as it relates to this gentleman, we're incorporating Western medicine. Like, so this man is obviously seeing specialists who are helping him with his cancer, and he's on the different treatments that he needed to be on. But it got to a point where instead of having to see the doctor every 3 weeks, he was able to go every 6 weeks. And there are times where the practitioner might say, maybe you could start weaning yourself off of that medication. It served its purpose, and we think your body is strong enough to be on its own. Every case is obviously very different, but I'm just making the point that we're not closed-minded to Western medicine and prescriptions and merging and marrying the two.
Yeah. That's what I think is so amazing about it, because in my opinion, I think anytime you completely say one way or another is like the right way or the wrong way, I think you're in a losing situation. I think looking at it holistically and incorporating everything is a wonderful way to view it, like I said, from every standpoint. So who would be someone that would benefit from whether maybe a body intuitive session or a Reiki session?
Well, I mean, I'm of the personal belief that anybody would benefit from.
Okay. That's great.
Either session. If it was up to me, like now that Reiki is a wonderful modality, but one of the things that I love about Body Intuitive is that it's able to pull in resources. So a lot of energy practitioners might have more than one modality in their toolbox, so to speak. And one of the beautiful things about Body Intuitive is that it leaves room for that. So I could be working on somebody with a Body Intuitive session, and we might use Reiki to integrate the energy even a little bit deeper, or to help align the chakras, or, work within a certain meridian system or the Kundalini system. So there's times where it's appropriate to bring it in as a other modality. And there's other times where you could just choose to do a full Reiki session as opposed to Body Intuitive. Me as a practitioner, I like to have more at my disposal. So I would always prefer to do Body Intuitive.
Okay. And so where did you study Body Intuitive?
I'm studying with two doctors. It's Body Intuitive is the program. And I mentioned Dr. Laura Stuve and Dr. Janet Gallipo. Dr. Laura Stuve is in California and Dr. Gallipo is in Miami. And usually we travel to these classes. They have international students all over the world that work with them, and they're wonderful. They're just completely dedicating their lives to training healthcare practitioners, doctors, energy professionals, whoever is interested in learning this modality. They want to help people see options in healthcare and help improve lives.
That's incredible. And I am curious as to, because, in talking through all of these podcasts, the first episode in season 1, we talked about just your journey as far as discovering your gifts and how you decided to really uncover what those gifts were and tune into them. And then last episode, we talked a little bit more about deepening that relationship. And now we're talking about the healing energy. And I'm wondering how, as you've traveled down this path for yourself, in not only learning about all of your gifts, but really creating all the daily habits and going through all of the courses and the learning and the coaching and the mentoring that you have to go through to be able to practice this. I'm wondering for you, what has being a practitioner, a Reiki master and a practitioner of Body Intuitive, like how has that impacted your life? You're laughing at the question.
I'm laughing
at me, Michelle. I'm cool with it.
I'm not laughing at the question. I'm laughing at how intimidated I am to answer that. Not intimidated, that's the wrong word, but it's more like, where do I begin?
Yeah, because it's affected every facet of your life, right?
It's affected every aspect of my life. I mean, just in terms of, it's changed how I think about every minute of my day.
Yeah.
It's changed how I feel. Somebody who I love dearly received a diagnosis about a year ago that nobody wants to receive. And it's helped me manage the stress around that, because I met these amazing energy medicine practitioners who I'm studying with, and like a doctor or a surgeon wouldn't operate on their own child. Energy medicine is similar. So I do trades with people that I work with across the country. And he is working with one of the people who I respect the most in the industry. And that gives me peace of mind because now I know he's getting the best Western and alternative approach that he can possibly get. And then we have to just put it in God's hands. So It has changed my life from managing things that would slow me down. It has changed my trajectory. It has changed how I see everything because with my pen and my writing, I see universal law, right? There's a spiritual law and I understand that. But when I see that these cells follow the same law and everything goes back to that cellular level, it's amazing. So it's almost like I can see the big picture and then I can see it down on a cellular level. And then I can take that cellular information and bring it back to the big picture as much as I can comprehend in different areas of my life. So
it really is so just profound and, just truly larger than life. But that's what we're talking about in all of these, podcasts is that it's just really so much bigger than almost what our human brain can imagine and wrap our head around in a way. So thank you for sharing that. And I know it has affected every little aspect of your life. And I'm sure it's hard to put into words. I think it is, at least for me, I think you have to see it and to fully experience it. I think having a session, a Reiki session or a body intuitive session, you really have to experience it to understand how impactful it can be in your life.
I believe that, but I also, Spirit teaches with analogies a lot, and a couple of analogies came to me in my poem. And if you hear me flipping pages, that's why.
Yeah, no, that's great.
You hear, but they were comparing it to a golf game, so, if you're not Tiger Woods, a lot of people, my son was laughing the other day. He went to play golf with one of his friends and his friend thought he was aiming at the green. And my son knew enough that realized like his feet were pointing the opposite way, or sometimes your feet could be pointing in two different directions. So we think our trajectory is going in a certain direction, but we're not even realizing that our communication is off a little bit. So we're wondering why, if I want my ball to go on that green, why is it, shanking over to the right?
Right.
So, and then if you think about that and you take that, even Tiger Woods has a golf coach,
Right.
We can always be more precise with our game. And when you think about precision, I love this analogy, but I'm like a hockey player. A professional hockey player works with precision coaches on how to get speed, how to have this, the strength and the position to get their shots where they need it to go. I mean, you're talking about a blade that's 1/4 of an inch thick and maybe 10 to 12 inches long, or maybe a little longer, depending on how big their feet are. So you think about that, and then you take that same exact blade or something, very similar, and apply that to a figure skater who also works with precision coaches. And obviously the outcome is completely different. So when you take that precision and apply it to a multi-dimensional universe,
yeah,
we don't know where
crazy.
It's going to come in. And every coach and every client is going to be a different scenario. But a good energy worker is going to be in touch with this communication and this information coming in. One of the interesting things that I learned when we were taking a lecture with Dr. Janet Galipo, and she's a doctor of Chinese medicine. And she was talking about classical Chinese medicine approach. And they said in classical Chinese medicine, before you could become a doctor, you had to become a poet.
Wow.
And immediately the spirit chills were just all over my body, because I understand how spirit weaves these words in and out year after year and how important they are. Now, in classical Chinese medicine, or even in TCM, the newer adaptive Chinese medicine, some people just would even, it would be, they wouldn't recommend that somebody like me, I have knowledge of what the acupoints are, but maybe I shouldn't refer to them as their name. Because each acupoint, like say I'm working with kidney 6, it has its name in the Chinese language. I don't know the Chinese language, so I'm not going to pronounce that the way it should be pronounced. And even just the simple mispronunciation of this word doesn't call in all the energy. So if instead I hold my intention to where the energy is and everything that this acupoint can support your body with, and I know that that's what I'm working with, I could do a better job. And it's the same thing when we think about that precision. I mean, how precise those doctors are being with their words. That's how they can be stronger as energy medicine practitioners. And we do it as humans, like we do in all these aspects of our lives. Like I said, the hockey coaches have precision coaches. They have a different coach for endurance. They have a different coach for this. Everybody's working with the coach of who's the expert in their modality. It's just it's another avenue to explore. This is something that you could work with to improve all aspects of your life.
Exactly. And I think that it is an avenue that truly anyone who is interested in feeling better, thinking deeper, should explore. And, I love what you just said about, its precision. And, I think, I'm one that's not, I'm more of like a big picture and not so precise all the time. And so that's something I think, just personally, as you were talking, I was thinking I need to work on, just being more precise with my words, with, what it is I'm saying or what the questions are that I'm asking. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom when it comes to all of your gifts, but especially in this episode, explaining a little bit more about what Body Intuitive is, what Reiki is, how it can benefit others, because I think that you are an amazingly talented and gifted practitioner. And I would encourage anyone who is interested in learning more to check out your website and to explore a little bit more about what these types of modalities can do for you in your life, for every aspect of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, you name it. So thank you for joining me today, Michelle.
Crissy, thank you so much for having me. I have one thing to add very quickly.
Yes, please do. Go ahead.
Because I know you ask about what can my listeners do today to help them.
I do love that.
So I just wanted to recommend a book, or even just skirting on the website, but Anatomy by Spirit by Caroline Myss, Myss.
Oh, yeah.
She's a medical medium.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting book if people just want to have something to explore. Or Dr. Deepak Chopra is a wonderful mentor and leader in this industry. And he's wonderful to, search him online and just start exploring with Dr. Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, I personally do. I love Caroline. What's funny is I've always in my own mind pronounced her name as Caroline Myss. So I've mispronounced her name. But I do love listening to her. I've heard her on a couple of Oprah's podcasts, and Deepak, I have, done some of his meditation classes and things that he has offered. And I think they're both wonderful resources. So thank you so much for sharing them. And the book again was Anatomy by Spirit.
Anatomy of Spirit.
Of Spirit. Awesome. Anatomy of Spirit. Oh, I love that. Great. Well, thanks for recommending. That'll be next on my book list for sure.
Crissy, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here again. And I'm happy to answer any questions that come up because even though we talked about it for a full episode, again, like we're still just brushing the surface.
I mean, it is literally just scratching the surface. I can attest to that because I have spent a significant amount of time with you and I'm still always amazed at how deep we can get and how much I learn every single time. So be sure to check out Michelle. Her website is Love One Love, right? Correct,
Yes.
Michelle? Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you can also find her on Facebook, Michelle Young. And, we would love to hear your feedback on these episodes. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this episode. And we will be back next week with a new guest. Michelle will not be back again next week. We will be back next week with another amazing Suburban Warrior story for you. Thanks so much and have an awesome day.